Giants fans, welcome once again to the second New York Giants Rush Draft Show. This week we are going to be breaking down the top edges of the NFL Draft. And this week, me and Truth are joined by fellow New York Giants Rush member, Mikey Fresh. Mikey Fresh is going to come in. He's going to give us his opinions on all the edges. And this is a serious conversation we have to have, Giants fans, because I know a lot of us want two linemen in the first round, but edge is also a serious need. And this draft class has a plethora of them. To give you a reference, 2 weeks ago, me and Truth covered quarterbacks. We only did 6 guys because we figured after that point it's not really worth it. But we're covering 15 dudes tonight. And we really do believe that beyond, even if we don't get some of the top guys, there's going to be some playmakers available. But let's just talk about the Giants' need for edge right now. I mean, here's my personal feeling. I'm a little hurt by it because I felt like signing Leonard Williams last year to the $20 million plus a year contract that he got. I thought that was going to solve our edge problem, our pass rush need to an extent. Why would we pay all that money if that still didn't really quite fix the issue? Truth, I'll start with you. I don't know what your opinions are on that.
I think they had to overpay to re-sign Wayne. And I think we talked about this, Fresh and the rest of the guys. He had 11.5 sacks, I believe. It's tough to duplicate that. And I think we all said if he got 8 or a little more, we'd be happy with that. And I think he finished with how many? 7, if I'm not mistaken. You guys know what he finished with?
I thought it was just that. Let me see it right now. I'm pulling it up.
Yeah, I think it was like 7.5 sacks. And let's face it, had a lot of help on the other side. Ojulari did a good job coming off the edge for a rookie. But I think, like you said, when we started this, we need to get somebody else on the other side of Williams. Almost like we had Strickland and OCA.
You're breaking up a bit, Michael.
Am I?
A little bit.
How about now?
Tiny bit when you're talking, but
tiny bit, not awful.
Yeah.
But I think you're. It depends what you're looking at. Like, I think he's a very, very key player and a productive piece. But if you're just looking at like strictly pass rushing and sacks, that is the type of salary that typically an edge would get, and he's not your typical edge. He's more of an interior guy. It is a lot of money from a salary cap standpoint to be allocated toward that interior type of a role, but I think he's a very productive player. So I just don't think it's like, if you have like the case that we have is he is our best pass rusher. I think that if he is your best pass rusher, that probably is not going to be sustainable to have a consistent defense.
I got
you. He needs help.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We definitely need more talent and guys that can consistently get to the quarterback and create problems up front for the opponent's offensive line. I felt like last year, now Graham's gone, we had a bend-don't-break defense. And I felt like, although part of it looked strategy, I did think that a lot of it was just simply due to the fact that we couldn't get to the quarterbacks early, and they kind of had all the time in the world to make those deep throws, and that enabled it in a way, And I really think that if the Giants are going to move away from that bend-don't-break defense, they're going to have a more established pass rush. And to get an elite pass rusher in free agency this year, forget about it. We don't have the kind of money necessary to make it happen, right? So, look, I would say, and you guys feel free to interject with your opinions, I would say the biggest need for the Giants right now is offensive line. But number 2 is most certainly edge. Do you guys agree with that?
I think that's a pretty good assessment.
Yeah.
Really, a tight end's becoming important too. I might be a close third because, there's rumors of Ingram leaving and also Rudolph. So,
all right, absolutely.
Let's get with this. See, we have the Mr.
Let's
Fresh.
do it. Yeah, here's how it's going to work, everybody. So me, Fresh, and Truth, we each got 5 guys that we covered. We're going to start off with Fresh, as he's our guest. And he's going to cover several of the names that he was assigned. So we are going to start this off fresh. Go ahead and give us Jermaine Johnson. I want to hear about him.
Yeah, so Jermaine Johnson, when I first started looking at mock drafts and reports and research, probably let's call it December into the beginning of January, it was looking like he was a possibility to snag for us in the second round. But he's gonna go in the first round by all indications. I'd be shocked if he didn't. And he's a little bit about him. He's 6'5", 260. In high school, he ran a 4.5. So just to show you the kind of athletic prowess he has, he's an explosive player, and he's versatile too. He's played standing up or with his hand in the dirt. So in terms of 3-4 outside backer versus 4-3 end, throughout his time at Georgia, where he started before going to Florida State, he's had reps at both those positions. And then at Florida State is really where he flourished. And he's your. I don't think there's many holes in his game. I think that he's going to be an impact player for whoever gets him from the beginning. And then all in all, like if you're, he's just going to be too hard to pass up. That's why I think he's gone by the middle of the first round. I think he's just got really everything you're looking for at that position.
Yeah. And for the record, freshman, yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, there are projections that there's probably going to be 6, 7, 8 guys, edges taken in that first round. So, I mean, he's definitely one of those guys. And that, to me, just shows how stocked this class is. There's a lot of dudes. We're bringing up names that might be halfway down the list, and they're still top guys. And you're saying Johnson will probably be a mid to late first rounder?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I said, a month ago, it was like, potentially could be there for us to pick in the second round. I would be really surprised if he dropped past like 18 or 20, like really surprised. I would imagine him going in the middle of the first round.
Awesome. Giants pick him at 7. Would you have a problem with it?
I think it's too early to pick him at 7 just because I think there will be other players there that I value more. But
sure.
Yeah.
Only like a trade back scenario. Okay, fair enough. Well, let's dive into the next guy then. Cameron Thomas out of San Diego State.
That's Michael's, right?
That's my guy.
Oh, that's your guy?
So
Yeah.
Arnold, the Penn State guy, Arnold. How do you say his name? Ebikite.
That's pretty close. That's pretty good.
So he's 6'3", 250, burst onto the scene this year with 9.5 sacks, was at Temple for 3 years before going to Penn State. He's another guy that in recent weeks I've seen like shoot up the sort of quote unquote experts draft boards just because his physical traits, speed off the edge, pass rushing guy, more of a project against the run, but just from the raw potential, he's somebody who'll be in packages early on to rush the passer just because of his just pure speed and explosiveness. I think that, it's funny. A guy like him, it's almost like you got the teams that are drafting. There's 32 teams, so there's going to be somebody that falls in love with a guy that flashes like he can as a pass rusher. So I think he could creep up into the first round based on a team falling in love with those pass rushing traits. But there still is work to do specifically against the run where, I wouldn't be shocked if he was a round two pick or even a little later. Again, it's that dynamic as a coaching staff in today's NFL where you're going to be fired in a year or two if you don't produce. So are you going to spend a draft pick on somebody that's a project or somebody that could impact your team day one? It's that interesting conundrum. With the right coaching and development, I think he could develop into a nice player. I just don't know if he's going to be much more than a pass rush specialist in year one that comes in on like third downs.
Fair enough.
That's a good point, Fresh.
Yeah. All right, next guy. And I want to make sure I gave you the right list then, right? Drake Jackson?
Yes.
All right.
USC. He's
track everybody.
Yep. 6'4", 250. He's another guy that can play in a 3-4 outside backer or 4-3 end. It was interesting that he had 5.5 sacks as a freshman, 2 as a sophomore, then 5 as a junior. Not that that's the end all be all, but a little curious on, a lot of these other guys had like 10 sacks plus this past year. So a little curious there. Michael, any insight there?
Well, watching the film, I think, he became a little bit of a familiar name. So teams keyed on him a little more. So you saw a little more double teams with him or on him. So I think that's probably what resulted in the low sack total.
Yeah. Another guy that's got decent pass rushing skills, but against the run, because he's athletic, he'll track it down away from him. But if you run right at him, that's not a strength of his. So, I would imagine, again, like round 2 type of pick.
All right.
Okay.
What about and I don't want to mess up this guy's name either. Myjai Sanders.
Yeah, this guy's interesting. 6'5", 255. I heard when he was a freshman, he was up to like 270.
I thought you were going to say he was up till 2 a.m. partying every night. That's what I thought you were about to say.
No. He's somebody who you can see, like, he pops. He's somebody who flashes when you watch, and he's got all the makings of a great DN. In terms of like technique, he just doesn't have a ton of like pass rushing skills. I think the better tackles are going to be able to handle him early on because there's not much like nuance in his game. But from a strict athletic ability standpoint, like, he's going to be able to rush the passer with good coaching.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see who we got now. Sanders.
I think he's got, you got one more guy? I thought you got 2 more.
Walker.
I thought he's got
Quay Walker.
Walker, right? Javon Walker?
Yeah, Walker.
Trayvon Walker. 6'5", 275, absurd athleticism for his size. Probably would have more sacks if he wasn't on that Georgia stack defense, just with all those guys he had to share time with. He can win on the edge or in the interior, like we were talking about Williams earlier. This guy could win from the middle, kind of like Tuck used to win from the middle against interior offensive linemen because of his. He's going to be quicker to beat guards and just stronger against some of the tackles. So he's got a unique. I think if he's a guy that played on another team, and he wasn't on Georgia, he would probably be talked about as a first-round talent. I just think because you didn't see maybe the numbers potentially, there's going to be teams that are curious about, like, if he wasn't surrounded by studs, maybe what would that look like? But I could see him being a round 2 pick.
Okay. All right. Fresh, was that the last one for you? No, that should be it, right? All right.
Yep.
Yeah, so the only reason I asked that question about 2 a.m. because believe me, I'm trying to think the Giants practice team quarterback from Michigan State. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, even though I used to see him at the bar all the
Brian
time.
something.
Yeah, Brian Lewerke, that's it. Yeah, no, he was a good quarterback for us, but man, you'd see him at the bar and be like, "It's Lewerke, what's up?" And it's like, "Wait a second, it's Thursday. It's like 1:30 in the morning right now. What's he doing over there?" And needless to say, our offense probably could have been a little bit better, but it was always cool seeing them. And he made it to the NFL anyway. So
as far as
guys, I'm going to dive. What's that?
Just the last 2 cents. If the Giants were to trade back, I would love for them to get Johnson if they traded back to the middle of the first round with one of those top 2 picks. If they stay put in the second round, I would probably I kind of like Sanders, but like, I don't know. Some places I see him going in the 3rd round, but I kind of like Sanders.
Yeah,
So, what are your thoughts about the Giants? Go ahead, Truth.
It's just one guy that first about Jermaine Johnson. He had a monster of a senior. No one could stop him in the one-on-one. He did so well. He didn't have to play the game. All the scouts they were convinced, and he's no longer a second-round draft pick. And he can move up a little more based on a combine if he shows a lot of agility in those 3-cone drills that they like to do with these guys. So he's my guy. I mean, I really think he might be overall the third best edge rusher in this class.
Wow.
I think you're right. Yeah, you were cutting out a little bit in the beginning, but I think
I'm sorry.
All good. The point that I want to drill home on is in the Senior Bowl, he showed his full arsenal of pass rushing moves against good offensive tackles, and that in my eyes solidified him as a top 20 pick.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. All right,
well, hey, look,
Spartan.
I was just going to say, really wouldn't mind if the Giants wanted to go that route and trade back with the 7th pick or even the 5th pick, and they still get an elite pass rusher like Johnson. I wouldn't mind that at all if they're getting another pick for 2023. You know, I mean, obviously it depends on who's available. But, you know, if, edge is a need, and if they get one of the solid offensive linemen early, then I think they're making a great move by doing that, right? Because if the top guys are off the board, and as you guys are saying, Johnson's number 3 for the edges, which I personally don't agree with. I'll get into that in just a sec. You know, I wouldn't mind. But Johnson's a hell of an athlete. He's a hell of a player. There's no doubt about it. All right, I'm going to transition off to the guys that I did research on. These guys are a little bit easier. Everybody here has heard of them because you cannot escape hearing their names when you're watching the NFL Network, when you listen to the NFL Network. This is kind of the bread and butter of what's making this class so stacked. I'll go right into it. We're going to go with the enemy, University of Michigan's Aiden Hutchinson. I got to say this. I hate Michigan, but, man, he is an incredible football player. The strength, his ability to be a force upon impact, especially against thinner offensive linemen when he's going against, like, the leaner dudes, he blows them out of the water. And he is really, really good at getting to the quarterback. And if the lineman's in the way, I don't know if I've seen anybody this good in a while in college football that's able to kind of drive the offensive tackle back into the quarterback. It is extremely impressive. The only few things that I saw as like a downside per se is his arms are a little bit shorter for his height. They're a little shorter than average, actually. And the only reason I bring that up as a concern, and it's kind of a miscellaneous one, but when you look at a dude like J.J. Watt, part of the reason that he was able to excel so much in the NFL is because his arm length was absolutely insane compared to average, right? He came out, I think he was the 10th or 11th pick out of Wisconsin. And, you know, he did kind of what Hutchinson can do with driving that lineman back to an extreme. I think in the NFL, there will be a little bit of a blip for Hutchinson trying to do that just because the arm length isn't quite there. But look, nonetheless, the dude had 14 sacks, and he's in the Big Ten. Big Ten has the best offensive linemen around, other than some of the SEC schools, but it's a little bit more top-heavy down there. Look, I don't see Hutchinson dropping to the Giants. There's absolutely no question about it. The Giants would have to trade up. Before I move on to the next guy, let me ask you both this. Go ahead, Fresh.
Yeah, I would just say, like, a lot of times, like, looking at a draft, there's a lot of, like, boom or bust potential with certain guys. I just feel like Hutchinson, like, I don't know. I don't see a scenario where he busts. Like, do you see it? No. Like, I think the floor is so high with him. I just, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, I think he's a sure thing. Like, at worst, he's going to be, like, a very good NFL player, above average NFL player, like, at worst. I just feel like he's a sure thing.
And look, again, the only thing that was a little bit of a downside for him was his ability to running back tackling. But you know what? Look, he's there to be a pass rusher, not obviously we'd like him to finish tackles if they come his way and be able to kind of maneuver and get there. But if the dude's getting 14 sacks in college, you know, I would have no problem with that translating to the NFL. I'm sure nobody would be complaining about how well he can tackle running backs.
Yeah.
Well, you know, listen, he's going to be either the first or second off the board. I think, and like Fresh says, I think it's a given that he's going to be a very good quality.
Oh yeah.
Edge rusher for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. The next guy I'm going to go into Thibodeaux. I've heard both. To be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure out which one it is. But anyway, this dude is a little bit different than Hutchinson, obviously. He's extremely explosive off the off the line of scrimmage. He's really fast, and he gets to the offensive lineman. He gets his hands on them so quick that it kind of gets them offside, like a little bit off right away. That's kind of his specialty. We're also dealing with a guy that drops back into coverage regularly. Not that that is necessarily like a clear-cut winner, but that's a huge plus. You know, I really want an elite pass rusher nonetheless. Some of the cons that I kind of saw were his maneuvering abilities. It could be a little bit better. The arm, the hand movement technique wasn't really quite there. And the other thing is the play recognition and awareness. Sometimes he's kind of not keeping his head on a swivel so much when he's looking around offensive linemen. And that's, you know, sometimes he'll miss like a running back that's coming to the outside if he's thinking about cutting inside. And that happens to a lot of edges, but it happened to him a little bit more particularly. And then, of course, I mean, look, the only real downside that I've been hearing, and I really, really question the analytical insight. We got Tom McShay saying that he's not playing or practicing with a fire. Guys, I don't know what you guys make of it.
Listen,
I think when they go through like the interviews and the pre-draft, like a team is going to get a sense on whether or not that's bullshit. But like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just think he's maybe a little bit more boomer bust than Hutchinson is, but the ceiling is just as high as Hutchinson.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. And real quick, Spartan, say hello to a couple of guys. I see Joe. I see our friend from Italy joining us.
We got
today.
Joe
That's
Clark
pretty
up
nice.
here.
Up, fellas.
Tudo, what's going on, man? Yeah, Craig always gets super excited when Tudo comes on here, man. because,
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. I just want to piggyback what Fresh just said. You know, like Hutchinson's the real deal. I think with Thibodeaux, he didn't have the luxury of having another edge rusher on the other side of him, and I think sometimes he tried to do too much. And like you said, Smart, he would overrun plays. I think he needs to learn to break down a little bit and figure out how to play. But that will come when he learns in football and they teach him all the coaches. Yeah. That's going to learn. He'll learn that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Look, the next guy I want to get into, the Big Ten guy, Carl Aftis. The strengths, what he did particularly well, and I actually thought almost better than a lot of them, is his ability to shed offensive linemen, right? Some guys are a little bit better at drilling back. Some guys are a little bit better at peeling off. This dude could kind of do it all. It was very tough for offensive linemen to block him. I couldn't quite put my hands on it why. He seemed to just have a very good mixture there of athletic ability, hand movement, and coordination. And that really helped him get to the quarterback pretty consistently. He had a similar issue to a couple of the other edges. Running back tackling could be better. Again, but, he had good numbers. And I'm trying to think. What do you guys – I want to hear your opinion because I've said this twice now. What's your opinion on a guy that's great at getting to the quarterback, can't get the running back as easily?
I think a couple things. First off, he's another guy that had like a lower sack total. And I'm just curious as to why. Like, again, I don't watch Purdue. I'm just curious. But anyway, I think most of the time with these players, like coming off the edge, a lot of the NFL like top edge rushers, they make their money and they are productive for their teams and their schemes based on rushing the passer.
Yeah.
So if they have that down pat and they have all of the physical traits and the characteristics, they think that they can kind of coach them on like not going to become necessarily dominant run stoppers, but be able to hold their own at least, be able to not just get wiped out of the play. So I think that like, you're right. A lot of the guys we're mentioning aren't as strong against the run, but that's not where they're going to necessarily make their impact unless they can't hold their own or they're too weak and they need to put on weight, which is the case with some guys. I think it's more of a thing where like you'll take the pass rushing ability and you'll try to coach up the rest. Right, Michael?
Yeah. I think with Kalafdis, I think he's in terms of the other guys you just mentioned, Spartan. But Craig, last night on a podcast, Craig made a nice with Kerrigan, who used to be with the old Washington team. Both went to if you can have a career like that, that's a pretty good pick.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And I know I'm moving a little slow. Actually, we're doing all right on time. Look, I'm gonna go into this.
We're doing okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, 25 minutes. We're doing good. This is a little bit of a controversial opinion. The guy who I was a little bit most impressed by was a dude that doesn't have all that much experience even playing football if you're going back.
Here we go.
And look, there's going to be an instant criticism of this guy, but let me go into it. Ojabo out of Michigan. Again, I am biased against Michigan. The dude from Michigan's really impressing me. That means they're pretty freaking good. This is what I saw out of the guy. All right. His body movements, his ability to spin and juke, it's freaking excellent. It really is. He's got great playmaking abilities, great vision, and his ability, again, to kind of keep his head on a swivel, see where the quarterback is, and get to the quarterback and figure out a way to get there. I don't think anybody actually does it better than him. But the obvious problem, and here's what everybody's probably going to say right off the bat, but if you look back, this isn't true. He's playing with Hutchinson, right? So a lot of times Hutchinson took the left side while he took the right side. But that wasn't always the case. There were a lot of times where they did flip-flops, and that was part of their defensive scheme. And he was coming off the blind side quite often, once again, going against Big Ten offensive linemen. And he put together 11 sacks while Hutchinson put together 14. And I think the reason that I'm so excited by this guy is because the things that he has to work on are some of the easiest traits. Strength, put him in the weight room. He'll be fine. I honest to God believe that. And I want to ask you guys this in just a sec. For strength, do you guys think, would you guys rather have an athletic guy that needs to put on muscle or a really strong guy that needs to be more athletic?
I mean, it depends on what the position is, but
edge
rushing the passer, give me the athletic guy.
Absolutely.
I
couldn't agree more. This dude's got a lot of potential. Like when they have strength as their biggest weakness and they can, put that on relatively easily, I don't think it would be a problem for for an NFL team to figure out a way to do that. Guys, does anybody else analyze? He's more of a 4-3 edge. Does anybody else have any thoughts on him?
Well, I do. I'm not as big as a fan like you are him. Right now, I see him as a pass rusher coming into the league. Look at his overall line. First of all, it's a small sample, one good season, okay, and he only had 35 tackles total in 14 games. So to me, I'm watching game film on him. A lot of times, he disappears a couple of times. And he doesn't make the plays across the field like you would want to see. He's a great athlete, but I'm not sold on him as a lot of people are. That's why I put Johnson ahead of him. If you look at Johnson, he's like almost 70 total tackles.
Yeah, that's
the guy
true.
makes plays everywhere.
He had 62 of those tackles. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Randall side more. I do get that. But the pass rush technique is there. For me, that's so high on him. What surprised?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit more weary of the one-year wonders out of college, in some cases. But that's but that really that's not fair to him. Like he had a really good year, and I think that he like what he showed this past year, he could certainly be productive. I just get a little weary of the guys that come out of nowhere.
No, I completely understand that.
Absolutely.
The last guy I got is Kingsley Enagbari out of South Carolina, and I probably screwed up his last name too. A little tough with some of these guys, man. Some of these, you got like a Polish last name or something like that. It can get a little bit tough. Look, I like this guy's athletic ability. He was playing against some tough competition. He would, be a force to reckon with out there on the field, but I was a little concerned with his numbers. They were pretty low himself, right? In fact, watching the videos, again, explosiveness, athletic ability, that's all there. It kind of reminded me of like a guy the Giants would have taken in the last couple of years of Reese, right? A complete athlete, but like the talent, the technique didn't really quite come together. I don't know. Did you guys do any research on this on this dude? He doesn't look like a guy that I really want the Giants to take, to be honest with you.
Based on what?
Thanks, Joe. Based on the fact that the technique itself, like athletic ability is there, but nothing else is really coming together as like dominant press setting skills as to why I would want him. He's not getting off the tackles as efficiently as I'd like. It was a little bit more of like a quick linebacker is what I saw out of him, right? Not really edge. So Joseph, I see I pronounced his name correctly, so I appreciate that. Thanks for the spell check. We might need you here full-time for a full-time spell checker.
Michael?
Well, listen, I saw a few game films with him, and keep in mind he didn't have the luxury of a stud on the other side. He ran on sometimes, so he was facing double teams as well. I do agree he's a bit raw in his technique. I think Smart Mike could say that.
Yeah,
I see him. I see him for late, or if he does good in the combine, it could move up a little bit. But I can't see him going into the first round. I see a second round at least.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, truth. We saved the best for last year, guys. Truth is the legitimate draft expert here at New York Giants Rush, man, and his opinions are second to none. And
come on, stop.
We gave you some tough guys to look at because these are really kind of towards the end of the list here of the top 15, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but it shows you how deep this class is.
That's true. And just because
let me just say
15, look, all these guys are probably going by the third round, fourth round. A few guys might slip, but we got a lot of talent at edge.
Here's a little bit to chew on. Who stayed in school that would have made this list? You have Will Anderson out of Alabama, right? That guy had 17 and a half.
Breaking up a little again.
All right. I got maybe because I'm moving. I don't know. You got a kid out of Notre Dame, Isaiah Foskey, another kid that would have made this list, and a kid out of Army. Go check this kid out. Andre Carter. Go check this guy out.
Is Andre Carter going to graduate from Army?
Out of Army. Go check him out. He's still in school. He's going back next year. Okay? 15 and a half sacks. Big guy. 6'7", 250. Room to grow. But anyway, let me go with my top guy in my list, and that's Cameron Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. A little fuzz, but that's all right.
All right. Well, Cameron Thomas played at a small school. People will question the level of competition, but the kid had double digits in sacks. He had over 70 tackles combined. He was second to only Hutchinson in quarterback pressures during the year. And he's one of those, blue collar kind of guys that plays to the whistle, has a high engine, and the kind of guy that fans will love to have. All right. And I see him going second round. That's what I see in him.
Okay. All right. Well, go ahead.
All right. No, if you want to comment on him, go ahead before I go to the next guy.
No, I got nothing.
Okay. Now, another guy who's from Oklahoma, Nick Benito. He's another kid that gets kind of under the radar with him, but he had a pretty good year. He had 7 sacks, played pass coverage, showed he's a good 3-down linebacker, edge rusher. And here's a kid who'll probably go in the second round as well, because it's such a deep draft for the edge. That's why I think he will. And whoever gets him is going to have a nice player. I like him.
Let me ask you guys this real quick, because he's 6'3", and not necessarily too short where you're out of the question, but what point do you say an edge is too short and you get a little concerned?
Well, you know what? That old thing that I remember I talked to Paul Dottino once told us, trust your eyes. When I watched him on film, I don't think about how tall he is. He makes plays. He's around the football. He makes plays. A good instinct. Okay, now we're going to go another guy. I'm going to go another guy who really plays in the shadows because he does play in the SEC. He's a pretty darn good player. Plays with his hand in the dirt and sometimes 2-point stance as well. Sam Williams out of Ole Miss. Okay, this kid's a good size, 6'4", 265. Had 12.5 sacks this year, and high motor. And he comes to play. He doesn't take many plays off. So I like him. A lot of mocks have him in the mid to late second, early third round, and that's pretty good value for me.
Okay.
All right. Any comments?
Nothing to add on him. No.
Okay. Here's one of my favorite guys. He had a great senior week. Boye Mafe. Plays more 2-point stance, good size, 6'4", 265, and plays with a high motor. Needs to be a little more with his bend when he comes around the edge, but I think he'll learn. He can play the pass coverage pretty well, but he's more suited as a run defender and pass rusher. Good quality pick, probably round 4.
Okay. Round 4. So we are getting a little bit deeper than I expected. All right.
Yeah, I think.
Michael, you got to tap on the deep ones, Michael.
I know. Well, I got one guy here who I see good 5th-round pick. All right, Mr. Will McDonald out of Iowa State. He's got a long, lean body, 6'4", 245, room to grow, and he had 11.5 sacks. Plays really good against the run. Needs to work on his pass coverage a little bit, but he wasn't used to do that, so he's going to have to learn when he gets to the NFL. Very explosive, likes to go start on the sideline, and he's pretty quick off the snap. And again, I have him going 5th round.
Okay.
Deep,
yeah.
Yes, I'm missing a lot of guys. I mean, there are guys like D'Angelo Malone who.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys, and that's one of the questions we'll have later on. What is Joe saying over here?
Joe, he said he likes Cameron Thomas. He's a San Diego State fan. Joseph, are you a San Diego State graduate? He even looks like Hutchinson. Reminds me of TJ Watt, poor man Hutchinson.
Man, that's pretty good, Joe. That's
all right, I like it. Our people are bringing their homework tonight. I'm loving this.
I think he's a good player. I like him.
Yeah, and again, guys, here's the thing. Truth is resident expert with the draft, and originally we were going to give him the top guys because he is, the best equipped to give the full analysis. But it was him who said, he's like, you know what? Why don't I get the deeper guys? He can give the more analytical cut, and that's fair. I can go with the top guys because a little bit easier to talk about them. And, obviously everybody's kind of seeing highlights of the same guy over and over, but that's what I liked about this. Going through 15 guys, we can really kind of get some insight as to the, who the best guys are. So let me do this. Before we go in, because we got some time, before we go into our fact or fiction, or should I say truth or fiction segment, I want to ask both of you respectively this. I want to hear top 5 in order, the edges of who you'd want the Giants to take. And don't assume picks or anything like that. No trade backs. Just in order.
Get fresh. You have the honors.
I mean, just like the way that I'd rank them.
Yeah.
I would say Hutchinson, Tibbs. Probably going Ajabo, Jermaine Johnson. Maybe Karlaftis would be my 5th.
Karlaftis.
They're all solid players right there.
Yeah. Yeah, again, look, there's so many guys the Giants could take that, it's my heart's really not broken either way. We need an edge. We need an edge. And I can see a lot of guys on here coming into fruition to be that guy. What about you, Truth? Who are your top guys?
Well, it's pretty close to what Fresh had. You got Hutchinson at 1. You got Thibodeaux at number 2. This is where I kind of sway a little bit, like I mentioned earlier. I got a man crush on Jermaine Johnson. I think after all said and done, he might be the third guy off the board on the edge class.
Okay.
Number 4 would be Colatis. I like him. I think he's a little bit raw, but I think he's got overall he can do a little bit more when it comes to defending the run and rushing the passer. And you're going to be shocked. My 5th guy it's going to be Cameron Thomas.
Cameron Thomas.
Okay. I like that kid. I just like that blue collar, just makes plays. He just does his job. I like guys like that just do it.
Yeah, no doubt. Joe Clark, I see your comment right there, and I think that is an important subject we have to touch on real quick. Both you guys, before we go into other truth or fiction. Actually, you know what? Hold up, Joe. We're going to hold up on that just a sec because we're going to have to bring it up. Right now, we're going to roll into a segment. We got Mikey Fresh. He is our guest, so he's going to be answering these questions, and he's going to be answering the questions that you just have up on the screen here, Joe. I will start off, all right? I'm going to ask a question, a scenario. Fresh is going to respond, and he's going to say whether or not he thinks it's going to happen, will happen, or whether it is not going to happen. So I will start off. Fresh, the Giants are going to go edge at 5, specifically and exactly 5. Pick 5.
No. The only way that would happen is if Tibbs or Hutchinson falls, which I don't think will happen.
Okay. Now, wait a second. There might be a case for Tibbs dropping based on what we're hearing.
Yeah, but I don't. That would be awesome.
Let me ask you something, guys. Yeah, I think Fresh is 100% right. If Thibodeaux drops out of 1 or 2, you really think the Jets might pass on that kid at 4?
Who knows what the Jets will do.
I mean, they can use a playmaker like that off the edge in a big way.
Yeah, I'm always a little amazed by the Jets. I always feel like they draft decently. Like the draft class comes around, it's like, oh man, they got some decent players, and then they just suck. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right, Truth, go ahead.
All right, my question, Fresh. Will any of these rookies, edge rushers, get double digits in sacks in 2022?
Will any of them get double-digit sacks as a rookie? Yeah.
How many? Just one, or you want to be bold and say more than one?
Oh, I would say at least one. If it was like yes or no, I would say at least one. And obviously Hutchinson would be the guy that I picked to do that.
Yeah, I actually could see 2 guys. So that's how high I am on this edge class. So
it is a deep class for sure.
Yeah. Yep, no doubt about it. Deep class, but truth or fiction, Phibbs or Hutchinson could fall past 4.
Based on what I said earlier, I think that's fiction. Just because if that was the case, then I would have said that yes, we'll take an edge at 5.
What are the odds you think?
Yeah,
like 1%, half of 1%.
I mean, it's not impossible, especially with like the a quarterback crazy team is probably going to trade up. Somebody's going to fall in love with somebody else. Like, it's not like outrageous. I mean, maybe there's like a 25% chance that happens. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but yeah. I also don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
Great. Okay, let's say, Fresh, do you think this is the best edge class in the last 5 years?
I'd have to really think about who's come out in the last 5 years, but like right off the bat, I believe so. Because again, we touched on 15 guys, and like, you could make a very good case that more than half of the guys we discussed today are going to be impact players as rookies. You know, whether they're package guys or rotational guys. Like, it's not like you're not going to hear these guys' names. Like, you're gonna hear them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about this one? There are no elite. I think we've already squared this away, but I'm talking elite. There are no elite edges past Hutch and Thibs. Nobody that's potential being that, 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All Pro caliber guy.
Oh, false. That's false. I think there's a handful of guys that can get to there. Even the guys we talked about that, like, yeah, hey, they can't. They're not good against a run, but they have the skill set. They have the skill set. You get them with the right coaches. Like, we're talking 2-3 years down the road. Greg Rousseau last year was raw. Like, he was 20 years old, had 15.5 sacks. He opted out his last year, but he had 15.5 sacks as like an 18, 19-year-old for Miami. Buffalo drafted him. He had 4.5 sacks as a rookie this past season. But like, when we talked about going into the drafts, we said, hey, a guy like that, if you're the Giants, if you're Gettleman and your job is on the line, he's not making much of an impact this year, but like, you see the potential. Like, there are guys in this class that maybe that will make an impact to year one, but then there are guys in this class that, like, 3-4 years from now, once they get development and coaching, will really come into their own.
Yeah, all within their rookie deal. These guys are going to come into their own, just like Fresh said. Yep. All right, last one, Fresh. I think this is part of what Spartan Mike wanted to hold up on with that question that Joe had. The Giants will wait until round 2 before they draft an edge rusher.
They'll wait to round 2 to get an edge?
Yeah.
I think that really is like, and I hate to give an answer like this because it's like a cop-out, but like, it really depends on the board and what's there. Like, there's if Hutchinson, Thibodeaux, Neal, and Ekwonu are taken ahead of us, let's just say, in my eyes, if one of those 4 guys is there, I'm taking them. So take those 4 guys out. For me, in that position, trading back is in the cards. I'm more willing to trade back if those 4 guys are taken. Now, if you trade back, it depends who you trade back with, like we talked about before. But like, it's like, not likely, but it's definitely possible that like a Kyle Hamilton at pick 5 or 7 is the highest guy on their board, and or one of the, maybe a backer at 7, whether it's Dean or Lloyd, if they fall in love with one of those guys after taking an offensive lineman at 5, then the edge could get addressed in round 2. The last thing you want to do is reach, and we always like Joe Shane said this in video clips. You see him like, and a lot of teams actually say it, but like, you could tell when a team is reaching to fill a need, and like, that's when you make mistakes. Like, when we drafted edge rushers and DNs, despite having Strahan and Tuck and OC, but yet we still drafted Kiwanuka, and then we still drafted JPP. Like, you never want to pass up on a talented player, like, because you think you have too many of that player. So, I know we all say we got to get 2 linemen here. We got to get this. Let's just relax. They have 5 picks in the top 81. They're going to come away with 2 or 3 offensive linemen out of those picks. You would think.
Well, I would hope so, because last year I was disappointed when they only came out with 1. And again, you have to go with the best position available. But I just feel like it was a completely ignored need. And
last year they didn't get any.
They didn't get any last year. Now listen,
they didn't get any. No, they didn't have one late.
Not last year. You get 2 years before it was 3, but last year nobody.
Yeah, like, and look, if Tony this year was Jerry Rice and had an Odell Beckham like rookie season, if the guys you draft instead of drafting linemen are like world-class players, then things would be different, and we wouldn't be like, why didn't you draft a lineman? But then you see Creed Humphrey go in the 2nd round to the Chiefs, who's the best center in the league, and you see Trey Smith in the 6th round, and like, you see these guys go, and then there's the picks that we took that are still like, we have to wait and see. We don't know. So, that's my take on that.
No, I'm completely with you, right? Because there's always that mindset of go best available. But sometimes I feel like that should only apply if you got some dude that's just a clear-cut gem, like an all-pro at a serious need position. Then you say it's like, all right, well, look, I mean, we need a tackle, but this guy's like an all-pro edge, and you get him, right? But I didn't feel that way with Tony. I'm with you. I was kind of, thinking when they picked him, it's like, he's a good receiver, don't get me wrong, but there's no offensive lineman that was better at offensive line than him. I didn't buy it.
Yeah, and you're right. And again, there's guys that like you could put in the same category. So if you have 3 guys that you think are in that same grade, let's call it whatever you want to say, and you happen to have a need in one of those positions, then maybe that's when it comes into play, and that's where you get preference. But like when we talked about before, like high ceiling, high floor players, bust potential, who can impact your team on day one, you know, whose game translates best with the coaching staff that you have, and like all those things are going to play out, but all of those things come into play, especially when, you know, these guys, like their jobs depend on their jobs depend on it. Like if Shane and Dayball don't do this right, then, you know, their asses aren't going to be here in 2-3 years. So they better make sure that if they take a guy that's quote unquote raw, they can get him up to speed within 2 seasons, or they better hope that the guys that they pick can come in and make this team better right away.
I agree with that. I think the Giants have had a tendency of drafting dudes the last few years where they're not completely set yet, but they feel like there's some sort of upside they can work with, and I haven't really quite seen it. Again, I'm not too like, I mean, I'm happy with a guy like Dexter Lawrence, but again, there's a guy where it's just kind of like, okay, he's good, but you know, they thought there was going to be some sort of upside they could work with that would make him all pro. I don't know what they were thinking with.
You know what? That's a Spartan. That's a good question with Dexter. You know, he's a big guy, right? 6'4", 240, something. And you know, he's a horse. He really is when he's playing well. And you know, with the way the Giants use their defensive alignment, you know, they played him on like the defensive end, right? They had Austin Johnson in the middle as a nose tackle, so they kind of played him. Yeah, they kind of played him like a thoroughbred, not like a Clydesdale. You know, he's more of a run stuffer, 2-gap guy. You know, just to let him clog the lanes in the middle between the 2 guards. You know, between the centers, and I don't think they used him right, and hopefully they will.
These guys are nice players, but the way that the Giants community talks about some of the players that we've drafted, and I've been guilty of this in the past, is like you would think that there's something that they're not. Like, for example, yes, Dexter Lawrence is a nice player. He was a first-round pick. There's probably 20 defensive linemen in the league at a minimum that are better than him or comparable to him. So, like, when you're talking about a first-round pick, like, there's been too many guys that we take that are like, yeah, like they're nice players, but like how many other guys in the league at that position can do what he's doing?
A lot. Right. And that's the
answer. And they're not first-round picks either. They're not first-round picks.
Yeah, right. We'll get those guys in the third. And you know, but that's kind of the thing that's frustrating is that, you know, if every 4 or 5 years we got a perennial Pro Bowler, all-pro guy, and then, you know, a couple down years in a row where you have Dexter Lawrence, and that's kind of the low, well, I wouldn't have minded it so much, right? The Giants had some draft classes back in the late 2000s where it's like, you know, the first guy taken was a good player. You know, we wouldn't complain about it in the long run because they were fine, but, you know, we got good players in the mid rounds, and that's kind of what made us elite. And that's what the Giants are going to have to start doing. You know, we do a lot of heavy analysis on the top guys, obviously, but we're going to have to start hitting on these mid round guys or we're not going to get better.
You have to do more than that. The 5 of the first 81 picks, out of those 5 players, they all have to be starters or contributors right away, and 2 have to be home runs. By home runs, I mean like in September in the 3rd game, you're like, wow. Like two of those 5 picks in the top 81, whether it's in the 2nd round, whether it's at 5, at 7 in the 3rd round, 2 of those 5 have to be absolute home runs, and the other 3 need
impact
to be contributing players.
No doubt. No doubt. No more busts. I mean, Christ, Eli.
That's at least 2 guys. You're right.
Yeah. Or we package some of them and get Russell Wilson, but that's for another show.
Oh boy, you should have done the last show.
We don't have the time. This is Giants fans. A little bit of a back and forth between truth and fresh. I've seen them go out and discuss it. No, not too bad or anything like that. We're all friends here at New York Giants Rush, but we could probably have an intermediary week where we just debate that one, but. You know, I don't want him on the Eagles. I can tell you that much. But anyway, guys, tell you what. I think. Go ahead, Truth. Any final word?
No. Listen, this was a good podcast, and you know, the edge class is really going to be exciting when draft night comes for the Giants. Talent. So hopefully we'll get one of those guys, or maybe 2, and like Fresh says, maybe one will be an impact player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I'm holding me, especially at 5 and 7. I mean, good Lord. I don't even want to think about missing on. I don't want to think about missing on one, let alone
Cedric
two.
Jones.
Oh, man. Fresh, you are the guest. What are your final fresh thoughts for the 2022 Edge class or the whole draft in general?
There's between the Edge class and the whole draft in general, there's a lot of players that there's really no excuse that what I said earlier in the top 5 out of the top 81 selections we shouldn't see immediate returns from. So they got to hit.
I'm with you. All right,
Yeah.
guys, that is the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is New York Giants Rush. We are happy to host this segment. We will be back in 2 weeks. We haven't quite pinned down the position, but we are definitely we have several of these episodes left throughout the year. We are guaranteeingly, obviously, going to do offensive linemen, as that is probably the Giants' biggest need. We're definitely going to do tight ends because we all discussed that there is a plethora of good tight ends in this draft class, and it's worth talking about since that will be a need for the Giants. That was unprecedented. And then we will go from there. Giants fans, thank you so much for tuning in. You can check us out on YouTube. Check out the latest pickup app or the our sponsor pickup. I made a prop bet the other day that there will be a streaker at the Super Bowl because I really this is the year for it. There was one a couple years ago. Why not this year? You can bet now at pickup. So just go to NewYorkGiantsRush.com and you'll see the link there. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a great evening. Go Blue.
Take care.